Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Thank you all for tuning in to Step Into Your Sunshine. This is Rachel Kudran, the owner of Kudran's Curiosities, the Etsy boutique, and RC Copywriting. Today, I have a very special treat for you. She is such an incredible woman, so smart, and I would love for her to introduce herself.
Thank you so much, Rachel. I'm so honoured to be on Stepping Into Your Sunshine. I think it's such an amazing thing. I'm so proud of you and proud to be here. I am Kirsty Kiki Smith. I am the founder and developer for 13 products that are scientifically researched and sold globally. So I also help mentor people and I guest speak on the problems with women and how I can help you understand science and your own body and just give you the knowledge that most of us aren't armed with to enable you to make better choices. And most of the time explain that it's not you, it's way before you and it's genetics, and it just gives people their life back. A lot of what I do changes people's lives through products to just inspiring them to be who they are. So I think this fits perfectly.
Thank you so much, Kiki. Oh, we're going to dive in, and I'm just so excited for you to share your story and your experiences with all of us. And one thing that you just said that really touches me, because I am familiar with your products, and we'll talk a little bit more about them shortly, but giving their life back. I know for me, with my own story about weight gain, is that from about early teenage years to about the time I was my mid-20s, I was a fairly thin person and I didn't have any problems. I didn't really gain weight that much. And then all of a sudden in my mid-20s, I started just almost randomly, just continually putting on weight. And I had actually bought my dress for my wedding, and then I had to have it readjusted twice because I was gaining so much weight at such a fast rate. And lo and behold, after months and months of me gaining weight, no matter if I was eating, not eating, fasting, dieting, it didn't matter if I was working out, and the weight just continued to pile on. And it was really emotional because I would have to go shopping like every few weeks for new clothes because they wouldn't fit me anymore, especially pants. And lo and behold, I found out I had hypothyroidism, and things started to make a little more sense. And then, and so I can relate to this idea of giving in their life back, because for me, I felt like my life was completely out of control, and I had no control over my weight, my body. And that was really debilitating for me because I felt like I didn't even know who I was anymore because I had no control over something that was so simplistic and with me every day. And so I think your products changed lives.
Thank you so much. It begins with something like that. And, you know, when you mention about control, I think people often think that weight gain is a choice. And in 99% of cases, it isn't. It's something that's happened in the endocrine system, inflammation, trauma. Yeah, if you eat bad, you will gain weight. But the women that I deal with, like yourself, like most people, some of them are not eating at all what they should be, as in they're eating once a day, if that, and it's not to do with them sitting and stuffing their faces and being deliberately overweight. There's a lot more to it, and I think it's about time we change that stigma and not just judge people on that. I mean, what's going on underneath? What is that about? And I think the pressure that society puts on people is unfair because, you know, even going back to, we do like scanning, 3D scanning rather than BMI, because that is just, not everyone is born the same. Their bones don't weigh the same. So BMI to me doesn't make sense, and it causes a lot of stress on people.
Wow. I mean, you're really taking an approach that's changing the story, changing the society norms that women especially are bombarded with every day, and the media and magazines, on social media. You know, we have pictures of these idolized, very shapely or airbrushed women, and everybody thinks I want to be like that, I want to look like that. And it's an unattainable goal.
Of course it is, because unfortunately, that is 1% of the population. So actually the average size in the UK is a size 16. So we're all average, that's average, that's okay, that's, but we're all striving to be a size 6 or a size 0, which some bodies will never ever reach that. It's impossible. Even if you removed limbs, you wouldn't be a size 0.
Wow. And I think that's important for people to hear, because I have found throughout my life and experiences with myself and with other women that we become obsessed with what we look like, how much we weigh, what size do we wear, and then that directly affects our thoughts about ourselves and our self-esteem, and then how we go out into the world. And that can also limit what jobs or positions we choose to take, and then that can affect our relationships with our spouses and with our children. Like, if we're not loving ourselves, how do we love somebody else?
Another key point is to put stress on yourself releases a chemical called cortisol. Cortisol causes inflammation, and inflammation causes weight gain. So the pressure we put on ourselves stops us losing weight.
That's very important and very interesting. It's very important and very interesting that, we bring this topic into the light and we talk about it.
Of course, so that is going back to stepping into your sunshine. I'm not saying everyone who is like unhealthy and overweight, weight can be unhealthy, but there's people who are different sizes who are still healthy, and we have to acknowledge that. So I'm not promoting either size, either way. We are all born with what we are, and you have to make the most of it. But to put yourself in extreme stress either way is not great for the body. And I think it's important to understand your own body, what is going on with it, why you have subcutaneous visceral fat, inflammation, get to the root cause. And once you do that, you can own your own, and you can step in and be, not even start to be happy, but when you understand why you are the way you are, then you can make changes with an informed decision.
Yes, you can take back your power. And that has been a theme throughout this podcast as well, is taking back the power. When you have knowledge, when you choose to research or seek out information, you take a key role in your own health. You take back your own power to live a healthy, more prosperous life.
I agree.
Okay, let's talk about you a little bit more, some of your experiences in life. What were some of the defining moments in your life that shaped who you are?
I think the most defining moment to me was 2016. I hit rock bottom. It's something that I talk about often, because I think everyone reaches a point in life where it's make or break. And I'm not just talking about severe mental health. It can be the loss of someone, it can be multiple different things. You hit that point, and for me it was 2016. I lost everything. My nan passed away. I was circumstantially dismissed for raising a health and safety issue, and we'd moved house. My husband had to go and work away. I had nothing. I had absolutely nothing. I couldn't afford to pay my rent. I couldn't afford to pay my bills. I had absolutely nothing. And I ended up not being able to leave the house for a long period of time. I was severely mentally ill, as well as physically ill. And at that moment, I had a choice to give up, as in physically, mentally, everything, or make a massive change. So I decided to understand what it was that I didn't like about my life, that I was in control of, and that began with the problems, the pain, and the weight gain that was getting on my stomach. I wanted to understand more about that, so I began an access course and went through college and went to university. Through that process, I began to understand about cells and biology, and I thought, hang on a minute, there's more types of fat than just you being fat. Okay, that's interesting, because I was not eating at the time, but I was still gaining weight, and I still had like a really solid tummy. So through that process, I then tried everything that you do to lose weight: injections, pills, dieting, and nothing worked. And that's such a thing that every person says when they're trying to promote something. Everything didn't work for me because my lymphatic system didn't work. So the lymphatic system is the process that picks up the toxins and fat and causes it to secrete the toxins through your circulation, and then your kidneys and liver pick it up. So if your lymphatic system doesn't work, it can impact your circulatory system, which then affects your heart. So it's not about what you eat. If your body can't actually remove the fat and process it, you're never ever going to lose weight. So that led to research in essential oils. I found out that certain essential oils can improve mood, and certain essential oils can go topical and transdermal to help improve the lymphatic system. And that's how the first product was born. So just from hitting rock bottom, it made me reassess my whole life. I was going to make my own fat dissolving gel, which I still laugh now because we'll get to the end of the journey. But when I say this now, from going to someone who couldn't leave the house to becoming a developer, that's huge. You know, I had nothing and I made my own gel. So there was about 99 different formulations and 98 didn't work. So I'm just letting people know that when you start something, it's not quick fix, and the term overnight success isn't very true. There's a lot that people don't see in the background. So I could have given up. I think hitting rock bottom gave me that determination to want to make this gel work, and it did. We did 3,000 people and they all lost subcutaneous fat from formula 99, which became liquid lipo fat dissolve. So through that process, I also learned that the liquid lipo original gel didn't work for other people, so they needed more of a breakage and a heat gel. So that's where the other products came from. But that was the most defining moment for me, the first one. The second one was actually lockdown. Now, for most people, lockdown was terrible and it was a frightening experience, and we were all scared. There's no denying that. We didn't know what was going to happen. But for me, I stopped and had to deal with everything that I'd avoided. So my way of dealing with hitting rock bottom was to push myself into something else and avoid the feelings that I was feeling. And that's not healthy either. So I think we all addictively work to avoid, and it is a bad addiction. Working hard is great, but if you're working hard to avoid things, there's always going to be points where you don't move forward because you haven't dealt with the past. So lockdown made me stop and really so I had to give up uni at that time because it was lockdown, so we weren't able to attend, so I couldn't do my final dissertation. So it made me, with this gel I just developed, it was manufactured in June 2020 in the middle of a global pandemic, seek out women like me who were at home and send them the gel to use. So we'd already done the 3,000 people, but we needed people in home. And this is how I got into America as well, because a lady saw me in America, so I sent it to America. So just that lockdown period, if lockdown hadn't have happened, my product might not have sold, because people were so busy and they might have not had time to really speak to me, understand the product and the processes, and know that it worked, and the research that put into it. So how, you know, normally if I'd have just skyrocketed into shop and selling mode, and maybe wouldn't have built healthy connections and allow people to trust me and allow people to try the gel. And so I talked them through the process, made sure they had the right gel, helped them apply it, and then they do it for 5 days from home and send me the pictures. Those pictures are what made me have a 6-figure business in lockdown, because people seen real people who were in the living room doing Joe Wicks, ordering takeaways from the local restaurant, and we all hit a point where we did gain weight because we weren't as active and we were just not moving, and also the stress of everything. You know, when you're bored, you tend to eat more or drink more, and that was a great thing for people to show that they could just rub it on and use it at home, and it really, really built trust. And also, I think I was helping people with their mental health, believe it or not. I'm a empath. I love helping other people. I take on their problems to avoid my own as well. But they all lost subcutaneous fat, they lost inches, and we had these pictures. They weren't magazine quality and they weren't commercial images. And some people now say, oh, I wouldn't have ever put them on. But this was Cheryl in her living room showing that she'd had a visible reduction from her stomach that she'd been struggling with for 3 years. So I think that's relevant. And I think you've got to be raw and you've got to just show that's how it started. And I won't ever delete those images, even as we get more professional and it's more modern. Those ladies trusted me in the middle of a global pandemic to help them lose weight, and they are the fundamental starting point for my business. I also then met ladies who weren't in work, weren't in clinic, and they started using it, and then they now use it on their clients. So I actually helped over 600 women make money from liquid lipo in their own home around the world. So they'd lost income, now they gained income, and they went on to use it with the machines when the clinic opened. So that's what I did in lockdown, which is pretty spectacular. So lockdown was the second defining moment. I think if I'm okay to say a third, the third defining moment was going to a retreat last year where I met you, Rachel. Not last year, it was this year. See, you think time's fast. Yes. The retreat for me was life-changing, and I think, talking about stepping into your sunshine, I've been very much alone and in the dark for a long time, trying to do business on my own. And it's a very, very cruel, harsh world. And I think when you've made something yourself, you're already self-critical. You've already got the issues from the past that you haven't dealt with, and you're trying to sell yourself in a product, and you take everything personally. I was very emotional at the retreat because for the first time in my life, I felt like I fitted in. And I think that that's huge to be part of, because you feel alone. And my whole life I haven't fitted in. I've always challenged society. I've always been a geek, and I've always done things differently. But that was, and of course my practitioners and my family and friends love me for who I am. But I never ever, if you think about it, in 2016, I couldn't leave the house. I walked into a room full of women and felt safe. For the first time in my life, I wasn't judged, and you were all, every single one of you, absolutely amazing and helped me with my business. It's led on to things like this. We've made greater connections, and it's made me a better person, and I have gained friends from it, but real connections. And I think, you know, that is what is so amazing about being part of a networking group like MIB. And I'm so grateful for Leona for that. But that retreat was the third defining moment for my life, because it gave me the confidence to tell my story, and it benefited a lot of people.
Oh my goodness. Kiki, I feel I have goosebumps. I can feel like tears welling up behind my eyes. And when you talk about the retreat, it just takes me back there in that moment. And I remember all of the things that happened at the retreat and how you were feeling. And it was a life-changing moment, because not only for you, but I think for many of us there, it's like we felt like we belonged. Yeah. We felt like we were surrounded by people that understood us. They understood our drive, our desire to do more, our desire to have, you know, several things spinning at the same time that looks chaotic to outside people, but just seems normal to us. Absolutely. And we were finally understood. And yes, I had that feeling as well. I know for me, with the retreat, I don't think I'm far enough along the journey yet, but I think in a year or two, when I look back at that retreat, I will also categorize it as a defining moment. Because for me, as you know, there was a lot of chaos going on in my life. And my mom's sick and in the hospital. And I sort of made a last minute decision to go to the retreat, even though I had paid for it months and months in advance. And I was really uncertain. It was the first time that I had kind of pivoted away from my family and to myself. Like, I wanted to focus on me because I had spent so much time focusing on my family and other people. And I felt everything that you said, that when I was there, I was also terrified because I didn't know what was going to happen with my mom. I didn't know any of you guys really. I had, interacted with you guys a little bit online, and I was going to a different country. Like, I would live in France. I was going by myself to the UK, and all parts of it was terrifying for me. And I really align with what you said, that you felt like you belonged, and for one of the first times. And for me, I can really relate to that mentality, because also I was the one that didn't really fit in with school. I never felt like I was really connected with people, that we were on the same page, that we wanted the same thing. I was obsessed with living outside of the US, and nobody else thought like that at all. And I just can really relate to that.
Yeah, it's so true. I think that is exactly what your podcast, and you went there and did this now to help others. So you had to step out of your darkness into your own sunshine, beginning with the retreat, but you're now helping other women and yourself explain you are in the dark, but you can step out into the sunshine. And I think that's what that retreat really helped me do. And I wouldn't be on this podcast now had I not attended the retreat and you weren't there. So it's all truly divine timing.
I agree. Now, I do want to go back and talk about some of the 2016 and 2020 defining moments, because I remember your story about being rock bottom at the retreat in 2016, and you were just done. It was like, I'm either going to go, I'm at the precipice of making a life-changing decision. And it's incredibly inspirational and uplifting that you chose the more difficult path. You chose the more challenging path to go. You lifted yourself up and you went to university. I think that is amazing. I'm just so inspired by every time you talk about it. I'm just like, my gosh, she said no, not today. We're taking the high road today.
Yeah.
And then you just put everything that you had into it, and all of your drive into creating the products, into learning the science behind it. And I just find that amazing, because I know that some of our listeners are going to be tuning in and they're going to be in that same space. They're going to feel like they're at that place where they have to make a life-defining decision. And to hear that you chose to do the hard work to get where you are is just incredible. And you deserve so much praise and your story to be told worldwide, because people can relate to you. You inspire others to make that challenging choice as well, to go and take back your power.
I think anyone can do it, like, I'm being honest. If I can do it, I wasn't that great at science in school. I was the kid that set tables on fire with Bunsen burners because I had didn't have an attention span. I was the kid that was poor, that had to go and work from 16 and not continue in education. But the universe changed my path for me and made me do exactly what it is that I was meant to be doing, which is helping women around the world. So that's exactly what that was about. But people think they're stuck in a 9-to-5 and they can't get out of it, and they can't leave their job because they need the income. That was exactly where I was at for my whole life. I was poor, even though I was working full time, because when you add childcare in and you add other things, and there's going to be so many women now where they're in a job that they hate and they think they can't leave. And there's so many I think false promises with certain companies that you can earn this, that and the other. I think the best thing to do, even if you are in this job trapped 9-to-5 and you can't leave because you need the income to pay your bills, is really just start thinking now in this moment, what makes you happy, what lights you up, and what will make your life better. Because yes, we all need income, that's what we're ruled about, but you could start something, or you might have something in your mind that you've always done, or you're creative and you've just missed that path due to circumstance. Now this gives you the opportunity to not just walk out your job and be in financial detriment, but you can start something small and make it work. And we all have that option. I think you think that you're trapped. Society often has a very set out plan that, again, all of us at the retreat and the people that we connect with, we don't fit into that plan. We didn't fit into the initial primary education. We didn't really fit into the whole thing because we had a greater purpose to do. And there's so many other women out there that need to know that. They need to know, and men as well, they need to know, if you're not happy, you can change it. Don't feel like you're stuck every day. If you're waking up unhappy every day, you can make a few changes too. And believe me, there'll be people listening now who I would have listened to this in 2016 or 2015 when I was working 18-hour shifts and bundling the kids to childcare and not seeing them, thinking, what on earth is this absolutely crazy lady going on about? If you don't make changes, sometimes drastic changes happen to put you on the right path to what you're doing anyway. So just think you can do it. Honestly, anyone can do it. If I can do it, and that's obviously a little cliche saying, honestly, if I can do it and make my own product that's sold globally, I hit 6 figures in lockdown, that is a benchmark for anyone to achieve anything. And I can't sing, so you won't find me on a stage singing or anything, but someone might have a hidden talent that they can just showcase.
You are so incredible, Kiki. You're such an inspiration. Your story, the way you talk about it, the way that you're so humble in your story and you present it is just amazing. And I know that so many people will just feel connected to your heart and your way of living and your approach to business and the encouragement that every word that comes out of your mouth contains, where if you can do it, then they can do it. If I can do it, then they can do it. It's just, as we talked about at the very beginning, it's taking back that power and saying, I get to choose what my life is going to look like.
Yeah.
So much of that. Also, I wanted to talk about what you said about 2020, where in a condensed version, it gave you a chance to expand your products and get it into the hands of real people and have real images. And then that gave you the streamline to getting into the US, into other countries around the world. And you talked a little bit about how people feel like, oh, now you should get rid of those images because they're not as sleek or nice or modern as your new marketing. And I think people forget that people are most moved by real people.
Yeah.
And that they feel, when they feel actually connected to them, when they see them in their kitchen dancing, or they see pictures in the living room, or they see a picture in the, they have a little hand on their leg or a little face next to them because the daughter or son is right next to them, they're just like, yes, that's actually real life. This is a real person. And I think that more than anything else actually inspires me when I'm making a choice to use a product or sign up to something, is actually seeing real women and real experiences. I'm like, okay, that actually looks like my life. And yeah. I think I can do that. When it's polished and perfectly presented, it's like, I'm not really sure that that is a real experience or a real exchange.
Of course. And I think you've just hit the nail on the head there. How many of us don't do something because we think we're not good enough because something else looks better than what we think that we are? The ladies in those pictures are the majority of ladies that I treat. People in glossy magazines don't need liquid lipo. They may have had surgery, they may have had good genetics, they may just be naturally beautiful. But the ladies that I treat have problems with the lymphatic system, and they've been ignored, they've not understood, and they are just lost completely. So once they understand their own bodies, it's given them the right path to go on to make better choices anyway. But the longer that we think we aren't good enough to speak out, say our truth. I was so judged when I made my gel because people thought it was a water loss gel like previous products, regardless of the research, regardless of the people have a misconception in their mind, and we naturally as humans think negatively rather than positively, and that has a massive impact on our life. Because if you wake up and think, you open the curtain and there's one cloud and it's not sunny, oh, it's not that sunny today because there's a cloud, having that. Whereas if you wake up and say, oh my God, it's sunny today, that is a positive affirmation that makes the day better. If you constantly look for negatives, which I think social media also plays a massive part in, we all feel like everything's better than what we are, but it's not actually true. That's not real life. So I would rather treat everyday women for the rest of my life than sell out to a glossy photoshopped shoot and sell millions, because that's not why I'm here.
Yes, I love that, Kiki. And you're the staple for the everyday woman. Now, you're talking directly to me and directly to the women and men that are tuning into this podcast, is that your products are for them. Your products are for the everyday person that's taking their kids to school, that's trying to run the business and has a kid in their lap, the person that is going to work every day, the person that goes on runs or goes on holidays or just goes to the grocery store. You're here for all of us, and I love that so much.
Yeah, it's the best way to be. If you help people, it pays off in the long run.
I agree. To kind of go on, and the end of the podcast here is, I want to know, because you have been through so much in your life and you've had so much experience and you've had highs, you've had lows, you've had extreme success, is what advice would you give to someone who is trying to find their path in life?
I think the most important thing in life is to be yourself, as hard as that is, because we mask and become other people. We think it's better to be a version that everyone wants to see. My life changed because I'm lucky enough to have a husband who loves me for who I am and supported me through the lowest part of my life when I wanted to give up. And he allowed me to go and make a gel that dissolved fat while rolling his eyes, and now he helps me in distribution. He has his own companies. He loved me for who I was. I had a granddad that loved me for who I am, but they were the only people in my life that really let me be who I was. And I don't think without them I'd have ever done what I've done now. But for someone who's at home, it's not worth wasting your whole life worrying what other people are going to think, because they're going to think bad anyway if they're that way inclined. So don't stop yourself living your dream because you're worried what Sharon down the road might say, because they're going to say something anyway, whether you do it or not. They might say, oh, you wasted your life because you didn't do it anyway, or why are you wasting your time doing that? So it doesn't matter. Other people's opinions will always try and impact your daily life. But if you do what truly makes you happy, that's all that matters, because all that matters is you, your close circle, and the impact that you have on others' lives. It doesn't matter what other people think. It really doesn't, because they could change their mind about what they think next week, and you'll have changed your whole life and not done something on the opinion of someone who doesn't even know you. So just when you wake up in the morning, what is it that makes you happy? What is it that you want to do? And just do it. Just get on with it.
Yes, I think that's so important, to stay uniquely yourself and to stay in your lane, the things that make you happy, the things that you're passionate about. And one of the affirmations I do with my daughter every day is, after we've done several in a row, the last thing that we say is, she repeats after me, I'm not better than anyone else, and no one is better than me.
I love that.
And because I want her to know that, you know, she is uniquely herself. She is the best version of herself. She's the best at whatever she decides that she's the best at, as she goes throughout life. And I want her to always have that mentality, that to be herself, to have the freedom to express her creativity, what she wants in life, and to know that she's in a unique lane of her own, and that it's not about comparing or comparitis, or you know, if one person is ahead of me and one person is behind me, or I'm better, you're worse, none of that. It's like I'm being the best version of me every day.
That's the best thing to do. And another thing I'd just like to add really quickly is every day when you wake up, you're not going to be wanting to work, and things aren't always, you know, we're talking about stepping into your sunshine. Real life is hard and difficult, and you're going to want to give up and throw a tantrum, and you'll have times where you're unwell. That's everyday life. Don't feel like you're not a positive person, or you haven't changed your life, or you haven't done amazing things because you can't get out of bed one day. I think it's completely normal to allow yourself to rest and take a step. I've been an addictive people pleaser for so long that I've been ruled by helping others and putting myself last. And I think this year, starting with the retreat, helped me put myself a little bit before others, and I can say no now. I've not been able to say no my whole life because I didn't feel I was good enough. I felt I had to work myself to death and prove that person and do everything for them to make them like me. But the truth is, you can do everything for everyone and they still won't like you. So try and put yourself first and what it is that you and your family need.
That is such brilliant advice. And I can feel you and your emotions just coming through the screen. And I couldn't agree more. Not every day you're going to feel like you want to do all of this, or that you might be sick, or you might be having a bad day, or something happens in your life that's kind of putting you a few steps back. But that doesn't mean that you're not a good person, or you're not, like you said, changing lives, or that you're not on the right path. And I agree. At the retreat, coming back to what made me happy and the things that made me passionate and the things that I wanted to do, that was a defining moment for me this year. Was I was finally able to turn the wheel, if you may, and say, okay, at least for these few days, I'm going to focus on me. I don't know what's going to happen outside of this or afterwards, but I know that while I'm here, it's going to be about what I want. And I come from the experience where my life was, quite frankly, like shit coming into the retreat, and all the things that had happened with my mother and her health, and just taking that time for me and understanding and listening to myself and coming back to my center and what I really makes me happy. Like you said, I realize I'm right where I'm meant to be. I'm meant to be doing the things I am doing with my businesses. I'm meant to be creating a podcast and building relationships with women and impacting their lives. That is my purpose. And it just took me putting myself back in a position where I was reminded about that. And then from there, yes, my mom is still not out of the hospital. Here we are 2 months, 3 months later. And yet that was the cog that really transformed this year for me, where I was like, okay, things have not been good, but I'm going to go. And then that gave me the strength to say, things are still not perfect, but I'm going to continue doing what I love because it's what builds me up and makes me happy.
Brilliant. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kiki, so much. You are such a shining star, and you are empowering and uplifting and inspiring to all of those that interact with you, that all of those that will hear this podcast. And you are transforming lives, not just with your products, but also with your stories and the time that you invest in every person that comes across your path. You are such an incredible human, and I am very thankful that you took the time to be on the podcast today.
Oh, good luck with it. I know it's going to do brilliant and help people step into their sunshine. Have an amazing day.
Thank you for all of you guys that are listening. Remember that we have our episodes on Mondays and Thursdays, 8 p.m. UTC time, 7 p.m. UK time, and 1 p.m. US Central Standard Time. I can't wait to talk to you guys soon.